Welcome to this presentation on supporting multilingual development in early childhood education. In this presentation, we will explore strategies for supporting multilingual development in young children under age 5 within early childhood education and care settings. Based on a scoping review by Zhang, Degatardi, and Jonov, 2021, we will examine various approaches that educators can use to foster both home language and majority language acquisition. These strategies are grounded in a social constructivist perspective, emphasizing the importance of children's environments and interactions for language development. Multilingualism offers significant benefits for children, particularly in early childhood. These benefits go across so many domains and are very important for a child's holistic being and their overall well-being. Cognitively, multilingualism enhances problem-solving skills and mental flexibility. Socially, it promotes cultural understanding and improves communication across diverse groups and within bilingual and multilingual social groups. Culturally, multilingualism helps preserve cultural heritage and strengthens a child's identity and their connections with family and extended families, maintains spiritual connections and rootedness within one's own cultural practices. These are just to name a few benefits. Educators play a critical role in harnessing these benefits by creating supportive environments for multilingual learning. The role of the teacher is especially important when national educational systems detract or are unsupportive of bilingualism and multilingualism. Additionally, teachers play a critical role in affirming a child's language practices. So teachers must be committed to their role as supporters of bilingualism and/or multilingualism and need to be aware of the political pressures bilingual and multilingual children face when their languages are seen as a threat to a national language where educational systems and schools tend to promote monolingualism rather than bilingualism. However, more than half the world population is either bilingual or multilingual, and for teachers to be relevant to educational systems locally and globally, they must be prepared to work, support, and affirm multilingual language development. This is not to detract from monolingualism, rather, it is to highlight that bilingual and multilingual children are going to be in most classrooms, and addressing their needs and affirming their practices is in the best interest of not only children, but teachers and schools at large. This presentation, which is based on the articles included in this module, is grounded in a social constructivist perspective, which emphasizes the influence of social contexts on language development. Language learning is shaped by interactions within these environments, as well as by physical surroundings and available resources. Caregivers, including educators, play a crucial role in supporting children's language acquisition through their knowledge and practices. Despite the many benefits of multilingualism, multilingual children often encounter significant challenges, largely due to the lack of preparedness within schools and among teachers to effectively support their unique linguistic needs. First, maintaining proficiency in their home language can be particularly difficult for multilingual children when schools prioritize the majority language and fail to provide adequate opportunities for children to use and develop their home language. This lack of support can lead to language attrition, where children gradually lose their ability to communicate effectively in their home language, impacting their connection to their cultural heritage and communication within their family. Second, balancing the use of both the home and majority languages can make achieving fluency in the majority language more challenging. Many schools and educators may not have the resources or strategies to support dual language development, often focusing solely on the majority language. This can result in multilingual children feeling pressured to assimilate, which may hinder their overall linguistic and academic progress in both languages. Let's explore how children develop language through interactions with people and their environment, a key concept in the social interactive eco-behavioral model. This model highlights that language learning is deeply connected to daily experiences, whether at home, in the classroom, or in the community. Let's explore how children develop language through interactions with people and their environment. The social interactive eco-behavioral model highlights that language learning is deeply connected to daily experiences, whether at home, in the classroom, or in the community. Caregivers include parents, guardians, teachers, and community members. When they collaborate, supporting a child's language development together, it makes a huge difference. Parents provide the foundation by using the home language at home, while teachers build on this in the classroom. For example, if a child speaks Mandarin at home, a teacher might include bilingual books in Mandarin and give a child opportunities to participate in activities using Mandarin or translanguaging between Mandarin and English, creating a bridge between home and school. Teachers should also assess language development across all the languages a child knows. If a child demonstrates strong writing in their home language, it should be recognized as part of their linguistic growth, not sidelined in favor of English-only assessments. The environment matters too. Picture a classroom filled with multilingual resources, books, posters, and labels that reflect both the majority language and children's home languages. This environment sends a message: your language and culture are valued. Outside the classroom, community resources like bilingual libraries or language-focused after-school programs can also enrich a child's linguistic development. Many U.S. educational policies don't support multilingual development. Schools often prioritize English-only instruction and assessments. Imagine a child fluent in both their home language and English, but only being tested in English. Worse, some states restrict bilingual education, pushing children into English-only classrooms. Imagine how a child would feel then about the languages they love and the languages of their loved ones. Let's dive into 4 key strategies for helping young children develop their multilingualism in a healthy way. We have translanguaging strategies, which encourage kids to use both their home language and the majority language in flexible ways. Instead of separating the languages, translanguaging allows children to switch between them as needed, which helps them feel more comfortable and confident in both. Imagine a classroom where a child can speak Spanish with friends and switch to English and vice versa. This flexibility can really boost their language skills. Next, we have interaction-promoting strategies. These focus on helping kids grow their language skills through meaningful conversations and interactions. It's not just about talking more, it's about talking in ways that engage children and help them learn. For example, a teacher might ask open-ended questions or encourage group discussions where children can share ideas in both their home language and the majority language. These kinds of activities give kids the chance to practice language in real, interactive ways. Then, we have linguistics-based strategies. This one is a bit more focused on direct instruction, teaching kids specific language skills like vocabulary, pronunciation, or grammar. It's about making sure they get the foundational knowledge they need to build both their home language and the majority language. Think of it as giving them the building blocks they need to express themselves clearly and confidently. And finally, we have culture-based strategies. These are all about bringing children's cultural backgrounds into their learning. Language and culture are closely connected, so when teachers integrate cultural practices, stories, and traditions into lessons, it makes learning more relevant and meaningful for kids. All these strategies can create a learning environment that supports multilingual development. Translanguaging is a key approach in multilingual education, and it's all about flexibility in language use. Instead of keeping languages separate, translanguaging encourages children to blend their home language and the majority language as they learn and communicate. This approach isn't just about switching between languages, it's about creating a space where both languages can coexist and support each other. For example, some studies highlighted in the scoping review found that teachers using translanguaging strategies, like language by time of day or one teacher/one language, help children navigate both their home and majority languages more comfortably. This meant that a teacher might speak Spanish during one part of the day and English during another, allowing children to experience both languages throughout their learning day. Another powerful translanguaging strategy is code switching, where teachers and children switch between languages depending on the context. Research shows that this practice not only helps with communication, but also supports academic and behavioral management in the classroom. In some cases, teachers use both languages during read-aloud activities, helping to build vocabulary and narrative skills in both languages. So, why is this so important? Translanguaging strategies allow children to bring their whole linguistic selves into the classroom. It validates their home language while also building their proficiency in the majority language, creating a more inclusive and supportive learning environment. You also, as a teacher, may not speak the languages that your students speak. However, you can create opportunities for them to translanguage as mentioned in the previous slides. Let's talk about the language by time of day approach, a fascinating translanguaging strategy highlighted in the scoping review. Gord and Pontier, 2013, described this method where teachers use one language in the morning, say English, and another in the afternoon, like Spanish. This strategy helps kids use both languages throughout the day. One big advantage is balanced exposure. Kids get to use their home language and the majority language in a structured way, which is great for bilingual development. By splitting the day, children engage meaningfully with both languages, ensuring they don't lose touch with either. Another benefit is how kids start associating certain parts of their day with specific languages. If mornings are in English, they link those activities with English, and afternoons in Spanish strengthen their skills in that language. It's a clever way to reinforce both languages. However, there are some challenges. The approach can feel rigid at times. Forcing kids to switch languages at specific times might not align with how they naturally develop or how comfortable they feel. It's important to be mindful of their individual needs. Another drawback is that this strategy could limit spontaneous code switching. In many cases, kids mix languages naturally, and that's part of how they develop bilingual skills. But if they're confined to using one language at a set time, they might miss out on the flexibility to switch between languages when it feels right for them. So, while the language by time of day strategy has some great benefits in supporting bilingualism, it's important to use it thoughtfully. We want to make sure we're not restricting a child's natural language development or preventing them from mixing languages as they learn and grow. Let's dive into another translanguaging strategy that you might find useful, the one teacher/one language model. Imagine this. One teacher always speaks the majority language, like English, while the other consistently speaks the home language, such as Spanish. This setup creates clear boundaries, which can help young learners associate specific languages with specific people. Think of it as building bridges between languages, making it easier for children to navigate and separate them as they develop. Benefits? This approach can promote stronger language skills in both languages. It creates consistency for children, allowing them to practice and strengthen each language without confusion. Plus, it fosters a deeper connection between children and their teachers as they start to associate specific languages with trusted individuals in their learning environment. But there are also some drawbacks. This strategy can sometimes lead to an artificial separation of languages. In real life, languages blend and interact, so strictly separating them may not always reflect the way multilingual people naturally communicate. It also requires strong coordination between teachers to ensure balanced exposure to both languages, which can be challenging to manage, especially in large or busy classrooms. Now, let's explore a dynamic translanguaging strategy called code switching. Picture this. You're in the classroom, and you switch between languages depending on the situation. Maybe you use one language to teach a concept, like math, and then switch to another language for classroom management. Or imagine using a child's home language to provide that extra layer of emotional support when they need it most. It's all about being flexible and responsive to the unique needs of multilingual children. So, what are the benefits? Code switching allows you to adapt to the moment, making learning more accessible and inclusive. It's like having multiple tools in your teaching toolbox. You can meet children where they are, both linguistically and emotionally. This strategy also mirrors real-world communication, where people naturally switch between languages, making it more authentic and relevant for children as they grow. But let's also consider the drawbacks. While code switching is flexible, it can sometimes blur the lines between languages, which may make it harder for children to develop a clear structure in each language. It also requires teachers to be highly attuned to when and how to switch languages, which can be a bit tricky to balance in a busy classroom. And there's always the challenge of ensuring that one language doesn't unintentionally dominate the other. Now, let's talk about something fun and engaging coordinated bilingual performances. Imagine structured activities like read-aloud sessions, group games, or even dramatic play, where both languages come into play. In this strategy, teachers alternate between languages, enhancing comprehension and making sure all children actively participate in both languages. It's like orchestrating a bilingual dance, where everyone gets to move between languages with ease. So, what are the benefits? This approach is great for building children's narrative skills and boosting their oral language proficiency in both their home language and the majority language. It creates rich, interactive experiences that can deepen their understanding and help them see the connections between the languages they are learning. Plus, it's fun. These activities can make language learning feel natural and engaging, encouraging kids to participate more actively. But let's also consider the drawbacks. While this strategy can be powerful, it requires careful planning and coordination. Teachers need to strike the right balance between languages to ensure that children are getting equal exposure. It can also be challenging to manage, especially in larger groups, where children's language needs and abilities may vary widely. Additionally, the constant switching could overwhelm some children, especially those who are still developing a strong foundation in one or both languages. Now, let's talk about an approach that brings the richness of children's cultures right into the classroom, culturally and linguistically responsive bilingual approaches. This strategy is all about connecting what happens at home with what happens at school. Think of it as weaving together the threads of a child's cultural and linguistic background into their learning experiences. It could involve adapting your instruction to reflect their home language and cultural practices, or even inviting families to be part of the educational journey. What are the benefits? By integrating children's cultural backgrounds, you make learning more relevant, meaningful, and engaging for multilingual children. It helps them feel seen and valued in the classroom, building a stronger connection between home and school. This approach also promotes a sense of belonging and pride in their identity, which can boost their confidence and motivation to learn. But, of course, there are some challenges. Adopting culturally and linguistically responsive practices requires a deep understanding of the diverse cultures represented in your classroom, which can be time-consuming and complex. It also calls for ongoing collaboration with families, which may be difficult to coordinate, especially if there are language barriers or differing expectations. And while this approach ensures embracing and affirming children's linguistic backgrounds in the classroom, teachers must have a keen understanding and awareness on ways to balance the cultural and linguistic needs of all students without unintentionally privileging one group over another can be tricky. Let's talk about how we can make classroom environments more linguistically rich and welcoming for multilingual children. One effective strategy is incorporating children's home languages into classroom materials and routines. This isn't just about putting up a few signs, it's about making their languages a living part of their everyday experiences. For example, you could include multilingual signage throughout your classroom, making it easier for children to connect their home language with the learning environment. Another great idea is to provide books in the children's home languages, not only to make them feel included, but also to support their literacy development across languages. You can also introduce songs and rhymes in different languages during your daily routines. These practices invite children to use their home languages comfortably and confidently in the classroom, strengthening their overall language development. The benefits? These strategies validate children's linguistic backgrounds, making them feel valued and connected both to their peers and to the curriculum. By creating a multilingual environment, you're also giving them the chance to build literacy and cognitive skills in both their home and majority languages. Research shows that such an environment supports stronger language outcomes and deeper engagement. Challenges? Of course, creating a truly multilingual classroom requires thoughtful planning. It can be difficult to ensure that all languages represented in the classroom are equally integrated. Teachers need to think critically about how to balance languages so that no child feels their language is being sidelined. It's also important to be intentional with these materials, not just translating, but ensuring the content is culturally relevant and engaging for the children. Let's talk about the power of interaction in multilingual classrooms. Interaction-promoting strategies focus on encouraging rich conversations in both home and majority languages. As teachers, one of the most impactful things we can do is respond positively to children's language use. Imagine a child speaking in their home language. Your supportive response can build their confidence and encourage them to use both languages freely in the classroom. You can also introduce engaging materials, like picture cards or interactive songs, to spark dialogue and get children excited about using their languages. These strategies emphasize the importance of meaningful interactions. It's not just about talking, it's about creating a space where children feel heard and empowered to use all the languages they bring to the classroom. What are the benefits? By actively promoting interactions in both languages, you're helping children build strong language skills while also fostering their social connections. When children feel confident using their home language alongside the majority language, it boosts their overall language development and engagement. This approach aligns with the idea that language learning is deeply connected to social interactions. What should we keep in mind? While promoting interactions, remember that every child will have different comfort levels and needs. Being mindful of these individual differences allows you to tailor your approach, making sure all children feel supported and included. Thoughtful planning and intentionality in your interactions will make these strategies even more effective. Let's dive into the power of effective questioning when it comes to promoting language development in young multilingual learners. It's more than just asking questions, it's about the kind of questions we ask and how they guide children's language growth. Open-ended questions are a fantastic way to encourage kids to expand their thoughts and responses. Instead of asking, "Did you like the story?" try something like, "What happened in the story?" This type of question gives kids room to think and share more, encouraging them to use richer language. Another effective technique is inference-based questions. These get kids thinking beyond the obvious. For example, after reading a story, you might ask, "Why do you think the character felt that way?" This encourages children to connect ideas and express their understanding in their own words. We also have experience-based questions, which tie into what the child knows. After a lesson about animals, you could ask, "Have you ever seen a bird like this?" This type of questioning helps children link what they're learning with their real-world experiences, reinforcing their language skills in both familiar and new contexts. It's also important to include questions in both the home language and the majority language. For example, after asking, "What's your favorite color?" in English, you could follow up with a "¿Cuál es tu color favorito?" in Spanish. This reinforces their vocabulary in both languages. Lastly, visual prompts can really support comprehension. For example, if you're reading a book about animals, pointing to a picture of a lion and asking, "What do you think the lion is doing?" can help children find the words they need. By using these questioning techniques, open-ended questions, inference-based questions, experience-based questions, asking in both languages, and visual prompts, you are creating opportunities to learn in an engaging, meaningful, and supportive of their multilingual development. Let's explore how we can transform everyday conversations into powerful learning moments through conversation scaffolding. This strategy is all about guiding children through richer, more meaningful interactions that strengthen their languaging practices. Whether you're initiating, expanding, clarifying, or reflecting, each step creates opportunities for children to dive deeper into their ideas and connect their home and majority languages. Let's break it down with some real-life examples. 1. Initiation. Imagine this. You walk over to a child who's building a tower with blocks. Instead of a simple comment like, "Nice tower," you initiate a conversation by asking, "Nice. Tell me a bit about what you are building today?" This open-ended question isn't just a conversation starter, it's an invitation for the child to express their ideas, possibly mixing languages as they share their creativity. 2. Expansion. Now the child says, "I'm building a house." Here's where you can take things further. You could expand by saying, "That's a fantastic house. How many rooms does it have? Are they big or small?" This type of expansion doesn't just encourage more conversation, it invites the child to add layers to their story, using new words and ideas. 3. Clarification. At times, children might express themselves in ways that are a bit unclear. That's where clarification comes in. If a child says, "I'm making comida for my doll," you could ask, "What kind of comida are you making? Breakfast, lunch, or dinner?" By gently prompting them for more information, you're helping them think more critically about their wording and responses. 4. Reflection. And finally, reflection is the moment where you help the child look back on the conversation and make sense of it all. After your chat, you might ask, "What did we talk about today?" Or, "What part of building the house did you like the most?" Reflection gives children the chance to process what they've learned in a meaningful way. Let's explore how linguistics-based strategies can boost children's languaging practices through direct language instruction. This approach is all about being intentional in teaching vocabulary, pronunciation, grammar, and creating metalinguistic awareness and cross-linguistic phonemic awareness, helping children make connections between their home language and the majority language. Here's how you can make this come alive in your classroom. 1. Explicit vocabulary instruction. Imagine you're reading a story with the word habitat. Instead of just moving on, you pause and say, "In English, we call it habitat, and in Spanish, it's habitat." Can you think of an animal and its habitat? By teaching the word directly and making it interactive, you're not only expanding their vocabulary, but also encouraging them to think in both languages. 2. Pronunciation practice. Pronunciation can be fun. Let's say you're working on the difference between the English R in red and the Spanish rolled R in rojo. You might say, "Let's try rolling the R like in rojo." Can you hear the difference? Practicing pronunciation this way helps kids feel more comfortable with the sounds in both languages, boosting their confidence as they speak. Let's talk about how powerful culture-based strategies can be in the classroom. These strategies are all about embracing and celebrating the rich cultural backgrounds that children bring with them. When we make room for their cultures, kids feel seen, valued, and connected, not just to the classroom, but to their heritage. Imagine the impact of celebrating cultural festivals right in the classroom. Whether it's Lunar New Year, Diwali, or Dia de los Muertos, these celebrations allow children to share parts of their culture with their peers. It's not just fun, it's a meaningful way for kids to see their traditions honored and respected. Multicultural materials can also make a big difference. Think about filling your classroom with books, art supplies, and decorations that reflect diverse cultures. When children see characters that look like them or hear stories from their culture, it reinforces the idea that their background matters. It's not just about teaching diversity, it's about living it in the everyday environment. And don't forget about involving families. Inviting parents or guardians to share their cultural practices with the class creates a bridge between home and school. Maybe a parent comes in to teach a traditional dance, or a family brings in a special dish from their culture. These experiences enrich the classroom and deepen the sense of community, showing children that their culture is something to be proud of. Let's explore the importance of building connections between home and classroom, a key piece of the puzzle for supporting multilingual development. When we create a strong bridge between what happens at school and what happens at home, we're setting children up for success in every language they're learning. One of the simplest yet most powerful ways to do this is by communicating regularly with families in their preferred language. Imagine how valued and included parents feel when they receive updates from the teacher in their own language. Whether it's a quick note about the day's activities or a conversation at pickup time, this kind of communication helps families feel connected and informed. Another great way to strengthen this connection is through cultural exchange events. Picture a classroom where families are invited to share something special from their culture, whether that's a favorite recipe, a traditional story, or a craft. These events turn the classroom into a community, allowing kids to see their home culture celebrated while also learning about their classmates' backgrounds. And let's not forget about providing multilingual resources for families to use at home. When parents have access to books, songs, or learning materials in their home language, it reinforces language development beyond the classroom. It's a way of saying, we see your language and culture as valuable, and we're here to support it too. Let's wrap things up by reflecting on the key strategies we've discussed: translanguaging, interaction promoting, linguistics-based, and culture-based approaches. Together, these strategies create a powerful and comprehensive way to support multilingual development in early childhood education. By embracing these methods, we're not just teaching languages, we're nurturing the whole child, validating their identity, and creating a learning environment that celebrates diversity. But we can't stop here. Ongoing research is crucial. We need to continue exploring how these strategies work in different classrooms and with diverse groups of children. What works in one setting might need to be adjusted in another, so staying curious and open to learning will help us refine these approaches and make them even more effective. Professional development for educators is also key. Teachers are at the heart of this work, and giving them the tools, training, and support they need will make all the difference. Imagine classrooms where every teacher feels confident and equipped to foster multilingualism. That's the goal we're working toward. And finally, policy advocacy plays a big role in shaping the future of multilingual education. We need policies that prioritize and fund bilingual and multilingual programs, ensuring that children from all linguistic backgrounds have the opportunities they deserve. By advocating for these changes, we can create a more inclusive and supportive education system for all. In the end, it's about building a future where multilingual development is the norm, not the exception, where every child's language and culture are seen as strengths to be nurtured. And with the right strategies, research, professional support, and policies in place, we can make that future a reality.